I do want to thank everybody for joining this call. I really appreciate it. We're just going to go around. You're going to introduce yourself, say your name, say your pronouns. And the question for our icebreaker today is going to be, if you were stuck on an island and you could only take one thing with you, what would it be? One thing.
Mary J. All right, bet. So my name is Mies. I go by she, her, they, them, that nigga, if you will. And yeah, I'm just bringing the weed because I can't bring my phone because I'm gonna have to charge it and I'm on the island, so that ain't gonna make no sense. So I'm just gonna bring the bud, you know what I mean? High in the clouds on the island.
My name is Marquita, she, her. I would bring music, boombox, whatever, because I can listen to music all day long. No TV, no nothing. Music speak to me. So music is what it would be.
Okay, I'll go next. My name is Mike. I go by they, he pronouns. I think I would want to bring like some shea butter, so if I'm in the sand or the water, I won't be dry skin because I can't get burnt right now. I'm pale, but I need some suntan.
My name Candace, or you call me Meech. Just Candace or Meech. I don't really have a pronoun preference. Just call me Candace or Meech. And if I'm taking one thing, I'm gonna take my drums. Because like Marquise said, I love music, so I'd rather just have my music that I could play and be in my zone. So I'm gonna take my drum set with me.
My name's Whitney. She, her, they, them pronouns, and I would take bug spray because I don't have time for mosquitoes.
I'm Shawnee or Shawnee TV. She, her, yo, bro pronouns. If I could take anything to an island, it would probably be like a jet or something to get the fuck off that island. But y'all can continue with y'all shit, but I'm going to get the fuck off that island by way of plane, train. I don't give a fuck. Transportation at its best, period.
I'll go next. Also didn't know bringing transportation was an option because that would have been my shit. But I'm Ashley, also Ash the DJ. She or her pronouns. I would bring actually my baby book with my family photos and shit. So like if I can't get off the island, I got my family with me. So it's cool.
I go by Righteous, she, her pronouns. And I'll probably take a tent.
I'm Chandler. Chan. Pronouns she, her, Chan the man, bro. I think on the island I would take with me, a girl gotta eat. So I'm gonna take a knife so I can hunt, fish or something of that nature so I could like stay nourished because I'm not me when I'm hungry. So, I would go crazy. So on the island if I didn't eat. So.
Hi everyone, I'm Brandon Thompson, he, him pronouns. I'm trying to think about this question. It's a very hard question, but it's between an old school iPod with like old school music because I love to dance. I like dancing is my everything. And then a blender because I'm thinking about, some of the things I could blend on the island, like some coconut milk, coconut water, I should say, some of those greens and stuff. So try to stay healthy. Yeah, that's me.
I'm Monet Mo. She, her, they, them pronouns. I feel like I gotta take one of those packages that come with a notebook and a pen. Cause what else I'm gonna have to do but write?
Red, she, her, hers. I'm with Chandler. I'm taking some type of hatchet or something. I feel like I'm gonna just be on that island chopping shit. I'm gonna be chopping everything. I don't even know. Like, need a tent, chop it down. Need a jet, chop it down. Like, I'm just chopping shit. So.
Hi everyone. My name's Miana. I go by she, her pronouns, and it would either be between a gun and a dildo. Because, honey, what else am I gonna do but just, ain't nobody else there. I might as well fuck myself.
You gonna bust one
A
regardless, huh?
dildo, cuz.
Man,
Regardless. Matter of fact, can we make the gun transferable like a transformer that can turn into a dildo? My answer.
This week's conversation is about labels. So many different ways to approach this lovely topic. I feel like it's a repetitive topic within LGBTQ plus community, and definitely within the like Black like LGBTQ plus community. Do anyone want to start?
I feel like I done hit every label but femme in my life. Like I started as a preacher's kid, right? And then I got hit with the basketball player / nerd / tomboy, right? Then I ended up being a little STEM. Then I ended up being the dyke with the baby. Then I was the cute dyke with the baby who was dating femmes. And then I was the androgynous, I like studs. And then like I transitioned. And then I was like, nah, I'm still like a Black trans lesbian. And, you know, I like with trans identities that whether you be trans masculine or trans feminine, that you can dissect to still being a lesbian. Like, I'm not trying to be straight. That's the one label I'm not trying to be is straight. So that's my little, you know, deal on labels for y'all. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for sharing that. Was it, my question to you, Micah, was like in transitioning between all of these different labels, was that easy? Was it easy to like pick certain labels up and put them down, or was like what did that look like going from one to the other?
I think it was just the journey within myself, from like, you know, childbirth to learning how to navigate high school, to learning how to navigate in Philadelphia, from coming from Alabama, to trying to navigate the LGBT scene, to, you know, now you're navigating not just your gender identity, but your sexual orientation. So, you know, basically being free in all levels. So, you know, it comes with it. And like, you just kind of got to come to terms with it.
I kind of have a follow up to that, because Rez, you said like, how did Micah feel about picking up those labels and putting them back down? And I think Micah, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like those labels are still a part of your current identity. You never really put them down. Is that right?
Yeah. I kind of all put them into trans, and I feel like that's the safest thing into transitioning and figuring out what pronouns you want to use and what name you want to go by. Like, do I look like a Mildred? Do I look like I had 22 inches of hair? Like, do I look like I was any of these things? I don't. So I feel like I hold that to the front because, like, and I applaud people who are living stealth, you know, but like, that's not my story. My story is to say, you know, yes, I am a parent. Yes, I birthed my child. Yes, I've had relationships with a spectrum of type of people, you know. Yes, I like to do this, you know. Yes, I like to be dominated. So I think knowing that, you know, if you scroll all the way down to my Instagram, you'll see my hashtag started as, I was androgynous, you know. I was androgynous. I also had like physical abuse marks on me because I was going through abuse. So I feel like it's the story within the labels, and that's where like intersectionality comes from, and like that's where we all tie in together with these quote unquote labels. Not only am I Black, not only am I a parent, not only am I single, you know, it started with statistics. That's where these labels came from. So, you know, within this Black community, in this conversation, we get to see that it's okay to be a label, but we get to make it a label what it is.
I feel that. Thank you.
To kind of go from what Micah just said about, you know, taking the label and making it what you want, I think, honestly, I think I identify with that the most, because that's why my Instagram name is No Labels Here, because I feel like there is no specific label that I fit, nor do I want you to label me, because there's so many facets of Mia. and I've been so many different people, and those people helped me to become the woman I am in front of you. And if, for those of you, I identify as a trans woman, but I also identify as a queer trans woman, which you probably won't hear very often, because I do date both sides of the spectrum. I've dated women, I've dated men, I've dated trans men, I've dated one trans woman. So I've been on all sides, and I think if I had to put a label on myself, those would be the labels because I chose them. You know, identifying as a Black trans queer woman who not necessarily fits into or feels like she belongs in the lesbian community or the straight community. But I'm not here for you to make room for me. I'm here to take up room, you know? So those are I understand where Michael was coming from and saying that you got to kind of flip those labels to be and make them your own. Because I'm one of those people that I used to try to live stealth, but I'm happily out and proud. And it's not necessarily the first thing I say to you about myself, but as people get to know me, like Fantasia, we met on a whole nother time, but you do learn that I'm pretty much an open book. And that's the label the only label that I use for myself is I'm an open book.
Micah like mentioned earlier, like making labels your own. But in some of our previous conversations, we spoke about how like labels are placed upon us and how those labels come with a code and rules and, you know, things like that. You know, when you identify as a stud or you identify as a femme or a STEM, you know, like there's rules and all of that comes with that. So do you think that like we have to like create new titles or a different space for how we identify, or that like we can take even those labels that are placed upon us and like make them our own as well? Anybody can answer this.
I feel like it's the way we label ourselves, and nobody else can label us how we want to label ourselves. Like I feel like it's like I feel like labels are like how we reclaim, like women have reclaimed bitch and we have reclaimed nigga. Like we made it our own, like, because I realize no matter what, people want to categorize you. People want to join you together. People want to see like what spectrum you will fall under for some reason. And even with my brand, like our main tagline is no label, like, but it's all depends on, I feel like, what people want to label themselves as. Like we can label ourselves these hateful things, like things that stem from hurt and pain, and then we can create our own labels at the same time.
I wanted to kind of jump in, just hearing people talk about like their kind of flexibility and freedom to be like, yeah, I choose my own. Where for me, it was different because how I came into and being in the gay scene and kind of being in balls and houses and stuff, it was like you got to choose something, right? And so choose this or you choose that. And for me, I was like, I'm big, so it was like I was a big boy at the time, right? So at the time I'm walking big boy realness and balls and stuff like that. So at that point, it was like, so you a stud or whatever. And for me, it wasn't necessarily a stud. I got introduced when I first came out and everything. It was aggressive, right? AG. So it was like that was the first kind of clip that I saw of, I guess, masculine presenting women. But for me, the documentary kind of encapsulated the entire spectrum of what an AG is. So being able to have emotions and feelings as a woman, like behind closed doors, right? But in public, you got to present another aggressive type of way. Even if you are not acting aggressive, your demeanor has to bring off AG aggressiveness. But if I'm feeling away, if I want to be vulnerable, that vulnerability has to be in a safe space, right? And if it's not in a safe space and you don't feel safe, then you better show your AG or your stud. And then, but for me now, that's why I choose not to have no he, her, him, they pronouns. That's a preference for me, because that's a label again. It's like, no, if people gonna speak, say my name. Like, say Candace or Meech or whatever you gonna refer me as, so I know you referencing me, and not necessarily, again, just put me in a group of hers or theys or thems or well, what are you? No, don't worry about what I am. Just say my name and respect what comes with my name. So I think instead of like taking it and I want to say thank you to Micah for bringing up like that transition point. Like, trans is not necessarily, in my ignorance, was like necessarily transitioning from this to that. And it's like, no, trans can be whatever you feel and you engulfing and you transition into that form of who you want to be and how you identify. So I just now don't take no labels. You call me by my name and you respect the name. So
that's a really great that was a really great point, because I feel like why is there labels, right? Like, you know, who necessarily say we have to identify with anything other than ourselves? It's only one of me, you know what I'm saying? Like, there is only one of me, there's only one walk within myself, you know what I'm saying? So it's never can be a duplicate. And sometimes it's just what you identify with, right? But still, it's an individuality in every category that you can possibly. And like what you said, Candace, right? Yeah, you. There's no label you can put on me. Like, I am who I am. I am my name. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, I totally agree with that for sure.
I think people label, like when people are forcing labels on us, I think they're labeling us, or anybody for that matter, because that's what is easiest for them. Like, it puts people in a category, and it's like, all right, bet this person is that, so I can expect these things from them. But that's also why, like, more recently, I'm choosing to kind of like let labels go, because I really don't fit in the box of nothing. Like, I dress a certain way, that means nothing. I am like not an aggressive person. I'm not a dominant person in the slightest bit. I love to flip my hair. Like, I don't fit in this box of what somebody might assume someone who dresses like me likes. Come on, exactly. And like, I mean, I worked a long time for this hair, so I'm gonna flip it. Like, and I think that I also think that people go through a journey of what label they want to identify with, or if they don't at all. Because like 10 years ago, it was like a whole another situation. But you know, people grow up, God bless. And now I kind of understand myself better and like what I want to present to other people. I mean, if people want to label me, like, knock yourself out. I don't have to answer to none of that though. So
I came, Jesus, it's been 11 years since I came out on this scene. And when I came out, I think aside from like just labels period, when I came out, I was under the influence of a lot of older trans women who say you had to be a certain way and do certain things. And if you're going to be a woman, you got to be a woman wholeheartedly. You can't do half this, blah, 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 blah. And it was kind of taboo to like be like, no, I'm not going to be what you say. But I've been in transition 15 years now. And it seems like every year I shed another label that I might have put on myself. And I feel like every year I learn something new. And every label that I shed, I feel like I kind of gain one. And I know we say we should, you know, why does it matter we have these labels? It's kind of human nature to kind of put labels on other people and us, so we know where that person fits. Because again, it makes them comfortable. It makes us comfortable. Oh, she's trans femme, so I know how to approach her. And so I think breaking that label boundary or barrier or whatever you want to call it It's gonna be. It only comes with time. Just like every so often, something new comes into play. Where when I came out, gender queer people weren't necessarily out. Like you knew one, or you knew someone who was gender queer or gender non-conforming, but it wasn't as popular. And just like the trans thing or the gay thing or the lesbian thing, it gets, the more we progress as a human race, the more that we seem to be more open-minded. And I think we just have to get there for ourselves individually, and then maybe as time progresses, people follow, just like with anything else.
Yeah, I definitely think that like labels are like a double-edged sword, because although they box us in, they also can build community at times. Like I know that sometimes it's safe knowing that like this is where the bros are, and like I can go here with my bros and I'm cool. And
Knowing someone else for the community is in the space.
And like, but like, even like, I remember coming to college, and when I didn't see anybody that looked like me or anything like that, like my freshman and sophomore year, I had no friends. Then like they started this organization. It was like, okay, cool, we're gonna start this student org for queer people of color. And like at this particular time, I think me, Ashley, and Brandon were all in a class together, and we were like, what? How do we, like, where do we sign up? Like, how do we, and you can just tell that, like, we were all, like, in need of community. I'm not going to say we were lacking anything, but, like, having that, like, space where we knew, okay, people that look like us or identify as us or might be in the same realm of, our many identities, are here. Like sometimes it is comfort in that, and sometimes it's even safety in that, right? Knowing where your community, knowing where your community can be sometimes is important. You get what I'm saying? Now, sometimes we do get put into groups that we don't necessarily identify with, and I think like the double-edged sword comes in with like the code of conduct that comes with labels, because it's okay to be like, okay, this is my group or where I feel comfortable. But like Miana was saying earlier, like her elders would tell her like, oh, this is how you have to perform, this is how you have to act, this is what you have to do. And I feel like that's where things become like detrimental, is when we're like enforcing these rules in a code of conduct on gender, on sexuality, and you now have to behave a certain way, and you have to fit into a certain crowd, you have to dress a certain way. I think Candace was saying that too. Like I just wanted to walk a category, and me walking that category now meant that like I can't be sensitive, I can't be soft, I can't be any of these things that are a part of me just because I identify with this certain identity in a certain way. So
what people fail to like understand is nothing in and of itself is good or bad. It's how the fuck you use it. So it's a tool. Like labels are a tool. It helps you to find some type of like clarity, some context. Okay, this is who I am right now. Let me transition to something else, whatever. But it gets fucked up. Like you can use a hammer to, hit a nail. That's good. But you could take that same hammer and hit somebody upside the head. That's what the labels are doing. It's a tool, but they're using it to now try to like shame somebody or make somebody feel guilty for who they are. So I think if we could just take that and realize how we're toting this situation is how it's going to come off. But if you're taking a label on and you're using it as guidance in a way, just like, if you're painting, like, when y'all go to like sip and paint or whatever, they give you a model, but they don't tell you like, this is what you have to draw. They just give you something, as a guideline. So look at a label like that. Okay, this is the model. Somebody used this before, but draw outside the fucking lines. Do what you got to do, because you're a living being. You cannot be labeled, just like God can't be labeled. So that's just my thing. Labels are not needed, but if you are going to use them for the right purpose. So that's just my whole thing.
I will add, can I jump in real quick? I just want to add, I mean, I love this conversation, especially about this piece. And Fantasia, you said something great about like safety too. And I think with our community across the board, we have to think about safety. And, I think we should think big, the way Shani was saying, like, go beyond the boundaries, go beyond the lines. But I think about what Miyana said about, like,
Miana, it's all about me.
Miyana. That's it. But I was thinking about what, certain people told you about, how to act, and I think about social norms and how social norms are created so that we could fit in, but also be safe in a sense. And I teeter with that a lot, especially just being a Black gay man. Just thinking like, how am I supposed to present myself? Do I go beyond those lines, or do I stay within my means because I want to feel safe? Do I wear my pum pum shorts when I want to go outside? I'm saying, I'm just saying I like to wear them in the summer, but it's like, I'm afraid to even be looked at a certain way or to be called a faggot, and I guess there was no real directive, but it's like I teeter between these the want to go beyond those boundaries of like going beyond these labels, but then also wanting to stay within my label and my comfort zone because I want to feel safe, So, and it's sometimes from our own people, our own Black folk who are the worst at it, who are the most judgmental. So I think about labels and I feel safe. Sometimes I feel safe when we joined Queer People of Color at Temple University, y'all. Like, I felt like the baddest. Like, I felt like no one could stop me because I had my people, my posse. There are so many intersectionalities, but it didn't even matter. But when I stepped outside of Queer People of Color, when I went to the Queer Student Union, I felt I didn't feel safe. So I guess the safety part is so big, and I think especially what's been happening to so many people within queer trans people of color. What are we supposed to do? I don't know. I'm just talking.
No, thank you for that, Brandon, because that safety is something that also was brought up in, like, I think our like very first conversation when we were just talking about like our space and our representation. And we were talking about, how do we feel safe? How do we feel safe within our community, outside of our communities? And sometimes, like you said, Brandon, labels can afford us that comfort and that safety, because there's even been times where like I've gone to parties by myself, but I see Mies up in there and I'm like, all right, cool. I'm cool at, you know what I mean? Because now I see one of my folks up in here. You get what I'm saying? Or I go to a party and Ashley in there and I'm like, all right, cool. All right. Now I feel safer and I feel more comfortable. Not even that I was even at risk to begin with, but just when you see, your people, when you see people that resemble you in whatever way, you get what I'm saying? Because they can resemble you in multiple identities. It's just something, like you said, about knowing that, like, okay, cool, we the same. You get what I'm saying? Like, whether it's from our Blackness, our queerness, our masculinity, like whatever brings us. And I feel like that is also what makes it easy for me to connect with people, because like even me and Mo, we met at an event that wasn't even really a queer event for real. Wasn't a queer event. So, but but we got there and it was a diverse crowd. But when I talked to her, she was immediately receptive of me. You get what I'm saying? It wasn't that like, it wasn't a barrier. And I don't know if that came out of, okay, cool, like we're the same. But I can definitely say like I felt comfortable talking to her because I felt like, okay, what up, bro? Even if that wasn't, what we took on, just seeing someone that I felt like looked like me, resembled me. You get what I'm saying? I'm not the type to put anybody in a box or a label, but like I feel energy, and I felt like energy. So I definitely hear you, Brandon, with like that safety aspect, because I did feel more comfortable meeting her and seeing, certain people out. I do feel more comfortable seeing people that I feel like are in my community.
Well, what if now I'm gonna play this because I felt this, and sometimes I've even felt this at the sway parties. But what if, even though you have peoples in a room, you don't necessarily feel safe in the space? Because as a trans woman, I know that I am probably the only trans woman, at least that I know of, that consistently has attended sway. And there's been times where, we all know sway. I'm sorry, Brandon, if you don't know, but sway is
No, Brandon, no. Brandon, no.
I went to the sway. I'm in the. Better tell them.
The space is primarily Black lesbians. And it's been a few times where I feel like, although I have my people, I don't necessarily feel safe or even welcomed in the space because they're looking at me like, well, what is she doing here? And it's not that I'm a nobody, because I mean, a lot of people do know me and know the fact that I'm trans. I'm not here to hide it. But Red, to go into that safety thing, what happens if you don't necessarily feel safe? Then what do you do about those labels that the other folk are putting on you?
And that goes back to like the double-edged sword, right? Of like labels, is because like they can bring people together, they can also create that same separation. You get what I'm saying? Because like you said, and this is not to pit any type of identity against another, but like you said, you do identify like as a trans woman in a predominantly lesbian, I'm not going to say Black lesbian space because I don't agree with that, but I feel like that goes back to what Micah and everyone else was saying earlier about just creating your own. And sometimes, like Brandon said, it is that risk. It is that risk when you color outside the lines, how it will be received and how others will be receptive of you coloring outside the lines. And I feel like that's where like the community as a whole needs to take responsibility, and the community as a whole needs to step up, because there's no reason why, and this has been a conversation that you and I have had one-on-one, Miana, of me just telling you like, yo, sis, I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I just ain't understand the shit. You get what I'm saying? It was just some shit that I just didn't understand. And
I never got that from you. It was just a whole nother situation that got me. So that never even crossed my mind.
No, but I feel like ignorance, right? I feel like ignorance is what leads to a lot of like just really unsafe situations. And I'm not saying, it's in all situations, but I'm just saying that like when we step up for each other, we allow for opportunities to learn and grow together. You get what I'm saying? When you're feeling like you're an outcast in a club, if 5 Black masculine lesbians come and be like, no, sis, you with us tonight. You going, you know what I mean? You feel like now that's an opportunity for y'all to share an experience. That's an opportunity for y'all to learn and grow off of each other. You get what I'm saying? And that's why I feel like conversations like this is so important, because like majority of this call is like queer women of color, and I don't speak for all of us, but I can say that I don't have too many opportunities where I'm able to talk to trans folk and just be like, yo, what up? Can you let me know how you feel? I don't have too many opportunities where I'm even able to talk to gay men and just be like, yo, what up? How does, and this is not for everybody across the board. But this is just to say that, like, just because we are the LGBTQ community plus, doesn't mean that we are all knowing or we're all understanding of each other's situations and struggles.
I was going to just chime in real quick, but that's so true because I was really ignorant until I was about 18 and went to college. I thank Philadelphia, my experience in Philadelphia, for opening my eyes because I came from a little small town up North Jersey, close to New York. So anything I seen, it was New York, but it was just like so free in New York. But I actually had an understanding in Philadelphia, like what different sexualities and, even knowing sexual orientations and sexual identity is two different things. Like it just opened my eyes up to actually seeing people in different aspects, and it was just like a growth state, like something I had to experience to really learn. So,
a follow-up question, and then I'll stop running my big ass mouth.
Not at all.
We're talking about labels, and I just want to know what makes the label trans so scary or off-putting to the lesbian community as well as the gay community most times when it comes to being in the same space, 1. 2, when it comes to dating, and 3, just when in general. So whoever wants to answer, I'm trying to get an understanding of why it's so like scary or off-putting or whatever the case may be for some people. And not saying that that's how you all in this group are, but I'm just trying to gain some understanding because me and Red have had this conversation many times.
I think for that one, I mean, it comes down to ignorance, really. Like the other letters in the acronym are more familiar to people. They still might not understand completely, but like they've heard more, they know more. And like trans has always been this thing, or at least in my experience, that isn't talked about. So like, I don't agree, but I can understand how people will shy away from something that they're scared of, that they don't know anything about. And also because I feel like somehow along the way, people have been like discouraged from asking questions. It's like, oh, it's disrespectful. Like, I can't ask that. Or like, ooh, they're going to be offended if I ask that. So they don't ask anything. And it kind of just creates this like unknown and like almost like unknowable space. Like they can't ask questions. They can't learn about it. And I think that people often will get like, I mean, scared isn't the word, but it's like they act scared and don't want to be associated with something that they don't know about, but simultaneously won't ask questions about.
Mm-hmm. I think scared like is probably the right word to use. Like, even though it's out of ignorance, you get what I'm saying? Because, and this is not to like disclose. I mean, do you mind if I like, okay. So like, I mean, like me and Mia met online like years ago, like probably like 5 years ago. And like we went out, we hung out, took her to the movies and shit. And like
then she ghosted me. Complete Casper the Friendly ghost me.
But it just it goes back to what Mo was saying. About like not knowing and the fear, and like all of a sudden it became like improper to ask questions. And I don't know where that came from. Maybe because like everybody, we live in such a sensitive time right now that it's just like I don't want to wake the bear, so I'm not even gonna poke it.
Was it also like stereotypes of like how?
No stereotypes. It was no stereotypes because you were the first like trans woman that I ever like hung out with. I would say that I was just nervous because like at that time I was like just meeting everybody on apps. Like it wasn't like no like looking for love. I was just like, all right, I meet a friend, I meet a homie, I meet everything. But then we went to the movies and you are a very physical person. And I was just like, oh shit, what do I do? How do I respond? So that
I was a very physical person. I will admit that.
Very physical person.
You can't say shit.
Like not knowing the code of conduct at that moment, right? Because, and it's not to like, going back to how you was talking about your elders and how they instilled the code of conduct in you. You get what I'm saying? The same thing for me. I had my elders instill a code of conduct in me. And this, honestly, it's probably been way more than 5 years ago now. Like, honestly, it's probably been closer to like 10.
I think with both of us, like you didn't know certain things. I didn't know certain things because at that time I don't think I had dated any. I had just started dating women as well as dating men. So I think when you date a specific group for so long, and I guess going back to the labels, people put a label on you of like you're this ultra feminine person and you have to act a certain way. And at that point I was used to dating men who only dated me for a specific reason, or we're not going to go into all that, but I was still trying to figure out how I was supposed to act around dating a masculine woman, what I consider to be a masculine woman.
I was saying all of that just to say that, like, I really didn't know how to handle the situation. I didn't know how to ask questions. I didn't know how to be like, cool, can you be my homie or can you be my homegirl? You know what I mean? I didn't know how to do that without feeling like I was making someone feel bad for who they were or who they weren't, or how do I even figure out, who you are? You get what I'm saying? Because our worlds, though connected, there was a difference. You get what I'm saying? So, like I said, going back to those labels and those code of conducts and those rules that come with those labels, sometimes they become barriers that don't allow for us to connect in the necessary ways that we should be connecting. And I feel like with age and wisdom, hopefully people outgrow these things, but I feel like that's what's really important, is for us to create those opportunities for us to like learn across like identities, and across groups, whether we identify with them or not. Because Miana, you saw me at the 2019 Trans Wellness Conference, and that was my first time ever going to the Trans Wellness Conference. I saw people that identified in so many different ways, in so many different aspects. And I grew so much respect because I'd never had that before. I never had that experience to learn, what the depths of trans, can look like. It's definitely a necessary learning experience that we need to make space for in the community as a whole, learning more about, between gay men and gay women as well. Like, I see so many events that is just like, oh, that's a gay man event. Oh, that's a gay woman event. And it's just like, but where's our event? Where do we come together and share space? So I just feel like we definitely just need to learn across these labels and across these barriers.
Since this is the space to ask questions and really get to learn and understand, I just wanted to see if Miana could kind of like Micah help to understand what the transformation, that evolvement was like for Micah. So I wanted to see like what's that like for you, because what I'm hearing is like you have evolvements, but the issue is still like when you go into certain spaces, because of maybe your evolvement and how you trans or how that transition looks for you, it make you feel unsafe. So I want to understand versus assuming in my mind, I want to understand for you what your involvement is and what that looks like for you being trans.
So I've been dating masculine presenting women for, ooh, don't quote me, but apparently it's been about 5 years. Um, Me evolving into the woman I am today, it took me a while to get to a place where I realized that I wasn't just attracted to men, I was attracted to the masculinity itself. So whatever frame it came in, whatever personality, I'm attracted to personality, but as long as it's a masculine presenting person, I'm enough woman for anybody, honey. Now, going in primarily lesbian spaces was a little uncomfortable for me because some of my history with lesbians has always been like, you stay on your side and we'll stay on ours. You don't belong here. So, it's always been like this kind of taboo thing of like, we can't really be together. And I only knew a few trans women who actually dated lesbians, and so it wasn't really heard of or talked about, so I didn't know who to ask. So getting into those spaces, I just always felt like the outsider. And so when I started attending those parties, the one thing that kind of let me know it was okay to like attend was I know it's stupid, but when I first got hit on, not only did that make me feel a little bit better about being and taking up space in a lesbian event, but it kind of confirmed that I'm passable. But also it kind of like was etching me out of my shell. But there are some times where although you may have a group you feel comfortable with, they're not always with you. And there are times where, you got to go to the bathroom or go to the bar and, people are looking at you weird or trying to figure out. And it may not have been because of my transness. It may just because I'm a badass bitch. But it's like, I don't understand. It's just been a hard thing to navigate because I don't know what it is to live as a lesbian woman. You know what I mean? So like, just like y'all don't understand what it is to live as a trans person, I haven't had that whole, experience. So I don't know how to really navigate that community. So I'm always going to feel like an outsider because I don't know how to navigate it. I'm still learning to this day.
I feel like even trying to date, it's a lot of people say like trans on trans dating is like the wave and the thing to do. And me and Miss Mia, we attempted to date. Miss Mia is the woman of my life. She's gonna be forever old in my. We're gonna be golden girls, but we decided that a relationship was something that we could not do. And it's okay. Like when you can realize that a relationship, like I still like me and Mia can be walking around looking at everybody. We're gonna look at the studs. We're gonna look at the gay boys. We're gonna look at everybody. Ooh, like ooh, they cute. Yes, and we're gonna compliment and everything. But it's about being comfortable with like our sexual orientation again and like our gender identity. I remember going to stimulus parties and being uncomfortable as fuck with my hair, my white tee, my little sweater. I was cute to a degree, but like I feel a lot more confidence now because I got my little tiny bit of facial hair, my voice got a little bit deeper, so I got a little bit more self-confidence now when I go to the parties. And plus, like, I've been in Philly now for a couple years now, but like now I want to be that advocate in the community, and I want people like our younger generation, we don't want them to go through the struggles that we went through. You know, we're trying to be those people who are going to, you know, Temple and these other places and talking to them like, hey, not necessarily like you can be like us too, but like we're here for you and we understand, and like we all need help in navigating what we want. Necessarily, we might not need a necessary relationship, but we can all form different friendships, coalitions together to, you know, to do this work together.
But I'm also gonna say that I feel like it's something that I call transitional maturity, and it could be for anybody. But for me specifically, when I started transitioning, I only primarily dated, you know, cisgender men, and then I transitioned into dating women, and then I transitioned into dating trans men, and so on and so forth. And it's still, I think once you become comfortable with who you are as an individual, then things get a little bit easier. And the less you feel the need to have a label on yourself, because I think it just makes it life easier going through and just putting all that stuff, you know, aside. And also, when the other thing was when I started, you know, realizing what my sexual orientation was, because I already knew what my gender identity was. But as I started to grow into my sexual orientation, I was also pre-op at that time. So, you know, you kind of had to disclose I'm trans and I have a specific thing, which I don't understand why it matters what someone has if you're attracted to them, you know, in personality. But that's another thing. So, you know, that's what I guess that might have been another reason why I felt unsafe and maybe uncomfortable in those spaces, because a little part of me felt unsafe and uncomfortable with myself and the body that I had at that present time. Now that I'm post-op, I'm realizing that you know, I'm still trying to now navigate where I fit in as a post-op trans woman. And, you know, quarantine fucked some shit up. So, you know, I really can't really be out there in the streets popping my pussy severely to figure out where I belong just yet. But, yeah, that's basically it.
I also like how you told me one day that, you know, one of the things that you wish you would have learned is like, you know, you don't got to get makeup. You don't got to get made up every day and put your face on. Like you could be there, you know, sweatpants, hair tied, chilling with no makeup on. Like, and you know, the truth.
When you asked me what would I tell myself when I transitioned, I said that I would have told myself there's no right or wrong way to be a woman. And there's no right or wrong way to be whatever you are. And I'm learning that.
So, God, I feel like it comes back to me being a therapist every time. I work with middle and high schoolers, and like, as much as we have struggled with labels and like being assigned labels and trying to find what the right label is, I guess I'm always encouraged by the fact, like I was saying last time, that these kids don't give a single fuck about the rules, the labels, any of that. Like last week I was saying there's a girl, she got 3 boyfriends, just like, hey, everybody knows that's what they're doing. But also a lot of my kids are just like, I got a boyfriend, cool. 2 weeks later, oh, me and this girl, whatever. And I'm just like, all right, cool. And they don't really subscribe to labels. And it's just like, I'm doing whatever I'm going to do with whoever I'm going to do it with. And that's it. Whoever wants to like come see me about it, I'm sitting right here. And I'm just like, okay. It's like not a thing that they are confined by. And I'm like really encouraged by that, because please be free, do your thing.
I think that just comes with time and like generations, right? Because like look at the generation even before me, you know, that generation wasn't as open But look at us, you know, like my mom have 2 lesbian daughters, right? Like same, one's a bitch, one's a fem, like one's
my mom too.
masculine presenting, one is feminine presenting, right? So it's like my mom, I can remember a very time when my mom thought this was just the most disgusting thing, like, oh my fucking goodness, right? And now she like, I can't believe you better not date a guy. Oh my God, you know? So it's just like, even in that short amount of time, things have changed so drastically, right? And then you got to look at from my generation to a younger generation, shit is definitely has changed drastically in just a short amount of time, just within 2 to 3 generations of time. So like for me, I just think that, you know, kids are smarter, kids are faster, kids are more aware of their surroundings and who they are. And I think that comes with being able to like say fuck what everybody else thinks. I'm going to be who I am. You know what I mean?
It's not just that. It's because they have electrical devices, honey.
Oh,
We
yeah.
grew up playing outside, not attached to a phone.
Yeah, that is true too. But I had another question in regards to like labels. I think that with labels, like when you say it's a code of conduct, to me, I really do, because it can either protect someone or destroy someone. And I say that because what if you're a masculine presenting woman, but you are bisexual? Like that kind of would make me feel trapped more than safe. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, you know, when you dress like a certain thing and you act and walk like a certain thing, does that thing make you a label? Did that thing confine you to a space? Oh, you look like a masculine woman, but I still like men. You know, then you get shunned out from the rest of the other community, you know, instead of love. Like if I was a feminine presenting woman and I'm bisexual, then that's fine. You know, so like I said, I think it really can like protect you or destroy you.
I agree. In our first conversation, I talked about how like certain labels I pick up and I sit the fuck down, because I don't always have time to be your stud. I don't always have time to be your aggressive. Sometimes I need to be little spoon. Sometimes I need a door held for me. You get what I'm saying? So like I recognize that within myself, and I recognize that like even that slight step outside of the code of conduct, even that slight, oh, you out of bounds, like it was me in my younger years. Now, baby, I don't give a fuck. If you want to go out, we going to fuck out, because I'm a grown ass woman. But even that is still dangerous. You get what I'm saying? Even that, you know, people that be broing me up, now they're gonna be like, oh, all right, that bitch be trying to get with me. No, I'm not trying to get with you. You're still my bro. I will still play ball with you. I will still, you know what I mean? I'll still have fun with you. You're still my bro.
I play ball too.
Period.
Holding all your doors from now on.
But yeah, so I definitely, Keita, I definitely do hear that like there, you know, there is that risk when you are outside of the status quo or outside of what they deem the norm. And I feel like that's where we need to step up for each other. And that's where community comes in. You get what I'm saying? And that resets the norm. You get what I'm saying? The reason why today's kids are not allowed, are allowed to not give a fuck, is because the generation before endured a little bit of shit for them. You get what I'm saying? And that's not to say that they don't endure as well, right, but I'm just saying that, you know, it gets a little easier over time, because the generation before you done endured some shit that you ain't have to. And they changed and they shifted. You get what I'm saying? Now it could be a big shift, little shift, but I feel like that's where community steps up and support each other. And until that support is constant, it's not going to be a shift.
Candace, I think you said you wanted to say something.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, I think the issue, or where I see, like Marquita brought up the point of like, if you a masculine presenting woman, but you might be bisexual, I think the issue comes in the play is where it's like, what persona are you putting on though? It's like, are you putting on the persona that you hard and you only date women and da 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 and woo woo woo, but then behind closed doors, you fucking on dudes, but you just told me, bruh, in the joint, like, I ain't doing none of that. We ain't with none of that. Like, in the same, like, it's like, come with who you are. Like, bring it to the table and allow people to say yay or nay. And if it's a nay, boo, that's a nay for me. But it ain't a nay for everybody at the table. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like Tage was saying, like, all right, if she wanna be with somebody that's masculine presenting, my thing ain't if you know what I'm saying, they come in and they masculine present together. I knew because my homie told me. The issue is somebody come telling me something that, and it's like, yeah, yo, you know your homie they did it. I'm like, who? What? That's when the issue, I think, it becomes in. It's like you putting on a certain persona in certain settings and for certain things to feel safe in that moment instead of making a space safe for yourself and saying, yo, this is who I am. This is what I'm bringing to the table. Now, if you accept it, you accept it. And if not, you will not. But be mature enough to still be in this space and respect who I am. And I'm going to respect who you are in return. I think it's just like, yo, be who you are, say who you are, and allow people to see those pieces of you too. So that way they know and nothing could come as a shock. Because it's like, well, what were you hiding? Or why didn't you tell people so that we do know? So that we not just putting you in this box. You know what I'm saying? I can't tell you my man's want to holler at you because he did think you was cute, but I told him you was nice. Right? You know what I'm saying?
Yo, can I just add to that? I think, like, to your statement, Candace, I totally agree with what you're saying. However, I do think that with that comes levels. And I think comfortability is one. I think that when it comes down to sexual orientation and preference, I think that is an intimate detail. I do not think that everyone in my crew should be privy to that information. Regardless of what it may be, if it's stud on stud or if a masculine presenting woman likes to have intercourse with men, whatever it is, I think those are to be shared when needed. When I present myself, when I look at myself, I think of myself as a African American woman, like a Black woman. Like, that's what I think about first. My sexuality and what I prefer comes way down the line. And usually what comes way down the line is who I choose to lay with, who I choose to have personal and intimate conversations with, people that I trust. Because it's like I could sit here and hypothetically sit here with you guys and be like, oh, this is what I like. And it is not guaranteed that you all will be receptive to that, because in all honesty, we are getting to know each other. Therefore, when it comes down to, when we get into those intimate details, one would feel comfortable to say that. I feel like in those predicaments, as far as what I like, even like my best friend is like, she wants you to call her a butch. She wants to be a chick. She knows what it is. She has it in her mind. So for me to have those quote unquote feminine conversations with her makes her uncomfortable. So I respect that. I don't want to make you uncomfortable based off of what I like. But then, however, if you really my people, shouldn't I be able to at least just have the conversation?
Well, that was gonna be that. Well, go ahead. That was my.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I'm just saying in general. I just think those conversations come down to the nitty gritty when it's important, because once again, those things do not identify who I am. And, you know what I mean? Like, it's iffy, and I think it should be shared, to when it matters. But if you my homie, like, you just my homie, bro. Like, if we go out, and I'm not disrespecting you in any manner or whatever, but I happen to hide behind a stud and, she want to twerk that booty on me and I'm behind her and shit, I should have the freedom to do that. I shouldn't have to explain that to anyone. That, you know what I mean? And I find from my experience, like, when I say little things, cause like, I get like funny and I joke and shit. And sometimes I be real as fuck. You never know.
But sometimes I have felt uncomfortable in a space where I'm supposed to be, where I am quote unquote allowed in that safe space. And I find that sometimes I can't even like be myself because once again, here comes those labels on, oh, this is your definitive label based off what you look, so this is how you're supposed to act. So it's like the freedom then becomes not giving a fuck about labels, which to me comes with time, comes with experience, comes with like finding who you are, which you know what I mean, and finding out like what labels really mean to you. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's it.
It sounds like it comes down to safety. Once again, that's where we started the conversation.
I agree.
Just because a safe space is labeled a safe space, it does not mean it's a safe space.
I want to shake my ass a little bit.
But if you force yourself into spaces that's not for you, though, then like they not necessarily force yourself, but like, okay, like you brought up the point of being here and with everybody and us getting to know each other. But at the end of the day, I think a group of mature, understanding, optimistic, willing to learn people are at a table where I can bring up these differences and be these different type of things, and it's actually educating these people, whether they are nay or not on the subject. They mature enough to handle that there are these different types of people in this setting and be able to share their thoughts and learn about and to be taught and to teach at the same time. So it's like, do you force yourself to be in a space that's not mature enough to at least hear you out? Or do you put yourself out there understanding that, yo, you going to get pushback. You going to get some side eyes. You going to get that. But it gotta be somebody to take that first step in order to make the space comfortable for the next person that might be like you that's in there. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, where does that balance come in at?
I don't really think it's a balance because I wouldn't say I force myself into spaces where I'm not necessarily accepted. I feel like I am a walking representation of who I am. Therefore, those situations, if I were to be in a situation where I made someone uncomfortable based off of the decision I made, based off of me being a masculine presenting woman, which would most likely be with a man, I just excuse myself from that situation for me personally. However, that's not usually, where I am, or that's not usually my experience. My experience is me just doing weird shit in a space where Sway, for example, or, whatever queer party or whatever, doing some weird shit. And, people look at you, even amongst studs, AG butches, you know what I'm saying? I walk into the crowd like I'm pop locking and dropping him, and it's nothing but stares and glances. A nigga won't even dap you up or damn dog, twerk that shit, dog. Like, you don't even get that sometimes in those spaces. And it really is about like who you meet and how you meet them and personalities. For example, like me and Red, she just walked up to me and we just hit it off. You know what I'm saying? Just being in a space. I feel like it's all in how people carry themselves more so than what I have to divulge of who I am, because I'm a walking representation of that. For if you don't understand, however, or something makes you uncomfortable, most of the time I don't give a damn, because I fought very hard to be comfortable with who I am, what I like, what I want to be called, and under this umbrella of LGBTQIA plus. Like, it's a lot that I wasn't even signing up for back in the day. You know what I mean? I was worried about like my family. You feel me? I was worried about shit like that. Now it's just a matter of me walking out the door with my head held high and being like, yo, this is who I am. And the people that I talk to and communicate with, you know what I mean? Either, like you say, either they accept it or they not. But that shit ain't no water off my back. You feel what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, I'm going to be who I am. And I found that The power is being who you are. Like, authentically though, like dead ass knowing who you are, dead ass just being like, yo, I like this, boom, boom, bam, boom, boom, bam. And I'm comfortable with that. Regardless of what society says, my homies say, this is Zoom me and say, I'm comfortable with who I am. And that's where you find power. And that's where you find that really you inspire people. Because people are confused on many levels in life, not just sexuality or gender identity. You know, people are lost, but people find power in people who have like just said, fuck all that. Like, you know what I mean? I'm walking in my own shoes and my own journey based off of what I need. And I want to be around like-minded individuals and people who understand. Not everybody understands, which is cool, but it's not also my job to divulge that information off rip either. You feel what I'm saying? Like, that's my motherfucker. That's my business. Who you lay with is your business. And yes, when we look at people, we see people with different type of people automatically in our minds. It's like, what the, you know, it could be like, what the fuck? But at the same time, it does come with that understanding. There's a lack of understanding in the community as a whole. So you got a whole bunch of letters with a lack of understanding. So we're all like, literally it just comes back down to confusion, not a confusion and chaos. Like, you get nothing. You get the same movement as the motherfucking Black rights movement or the voters movement or the feminist movement. Like, they're just movements that continue to just generate income based off of struggle. Like, because identity, we can't just be who we are. We can't just figure ourselves out and be comfortable with it. Instead, we got to pick something and go with it and then live within those guidelines until you say, like, that doesn't work for me.
I think that's real, honestly. And like, to that effect, we're looking for acceptance where we don't need to be looking for acceptance. We gotta like accept ourselves first. And it's hard to look for acceptance without finding that acceptance within yourself. I know in like my journey, all the social constructs, all that conditioning, that's shit you have to unlearn. And when you don't know that, you try to learn shit on top of the bad foundation, shit just keeps falling through. But when you just look internally and you're like, okay, what the fuck is going on with me? Who am I? And does this shit even fit? You start to evolve into something better than what you even imagined in the first place. So I think we got to accept ourselves, because that's where that authenticity comes from that acceptance and that self-love. And like, there's a lot of psychology people in here, I see y'all, and y'all talked about social concepts and stuff like that, and self-identity and self-concept and all of that, but that's not mainstream shit that people find out. You got to go online and look for that shit. And that's something that I research on a daily, because I never knew who the fuck I was, and I let other people dictate to me who I was based off my skin color, based off my gender, based off of this, based off of that. But that shit, we got to peel back the layers and start to realize that that's just clouds, and we're the sky. We're the fucking sky the whole time. But those conditionings and those things that are pushing us, outside of ourselves, that's what's fucking us up. But if we could just come back within ourselves and realize that we've been here the whole time. So just come back to yourself instead of trying to look for somebody to be like, you know what? You did good, kid. You're going to be good. You can now be a citizen of the United States. You can get some rights. You can get married. We just got fucking married in 2015. That shit just got legal. So seeing that, I'm like, fuck that. That's never happening again to me, where somebody can tell me yes, no, maybe so. You got to accept that shit for yourself. And the more we do that, the more we become visible, I think we can actually change some shit. So that's my whole thing. So keep going, do what you're doing yourself, and fuck everybody else. Period.
Word. That's true. Yo, I feel like our generation created this. Like we set footsteps for the generation coming up. Like, I really feel like we were the ones who broke down a lot of barriers. They don't give a fuck. We made them have that not give a fuck attitude, like on some real shit. Like, I feel like because we went through the stages of being little dykes or being a little bit, like, it was still like a racial conflict into where we were coming out. You know what I mean? When I was 16, that was around 2000. I first got my license, getting pulled over for no reason. Like, And now I'm a little dyke bitch to the cop, not just a little black bitch. You know what I mean? Like shit like that. So I really feel like we were the ones who knocked down the barriers and let our voice be heard. It wasn't the elephant in the room no more. You know what I mean? We want to be talked about, and I'm gonna tell you how to address us now. And then the generation after us, it just has to follow in our footsteps, and they're doing a great job. So I feel like as long as we keep doing the same, we're on the same path. We're on the right path.
Well, also, to kind of go back to what Righteous has said about the ignorance of not knowing all the letters or whatever. I think we live in a very good, we are benefiting from the generations before us fighting for what we have now, and for the fights that our little fights individually that we had to do to get to where we are. I think we live in a good era now where there should be no excuse of being ignorant to what someone else in our LGBTQIA LMNOP community, is. It's our job as individuals, just like we make friends with different people. I think I make it a point to get to know all people. And that's kind of how I've learned to navigate communities, spaces, and labels and whatnot. Because I make it a point I want to know who you are as a person, that one-on-one connection, and let's face it, in our community, you can't throw a rock and not hit 5 other people that might know somebody else of a different letter of this community that you do not know, that you can't take the time out to get to know. Like, just because, Red and I didn't work out dating or whatever, doesn't mean, look at us now. We're really good. I would like to think we're really good friends. We're, in a space where she can ask me questions and I can give her answers. And I think you have to be susceptible. There's a difference between someone being mean and someone just being ignorant. You can kind of give information to an ignorant person because they don't know. But a mean person, you can't change how the label that they put on you or how they view you. There's a difference. And I feel like we as individuals need to discern the two and not take things so personally. I know a lot of trans people who be like, I'm not fucking Google. I'm not here to explain to you. It's not my job to explain to you. And I can understand that to an extent, but also, if you don't explain and they don't go look, if no one ever doesn't explain and they don't go and research, they'll never get the information. And why would I ever let someone who has never lived in my shoes write what the definition of transgender is? Because it's different for every transgender person. We are in an information age, and I feel like we are also in an open-minded age where we should be able to go out, meet people, and spread information and not take things so personally. Biggest thing that ever stuck with me is not what they call you, is what you answer to. You can call me a man. You can call me a tranny. You can call me a dyke. But if that's not how I represent and identify, it should go in one ear and out the other. And I think, like, I don't know who said it earlier, but we do take some things personal. But you have to grow out of that in order to get further down in progress.
I agree. And I'm just going to take the time to wrap the conversation up here. I really want to thank everybody for joining the conversation.